Well, hello, Paulding County, and welcome again to the Chairman's Corner. Delighted today to have our emergency 911 director, Mr. David Mumford here, and just hope to give you more information about how your 911 center operates and just some good practical information about what to do in emergencies. So David, welcome.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
And first of all, I think it's always good to start with your background and maybe some of your experiences in education.
Okay. Well, this marks my 33rd year in public safety.
Wow.
And the last 13 years have been in Paulding County. And before that, I worked as a police officer and investigator detective over in Cobb with Marietta Police Department and Cobb County District Attorney's Office. And served most of my time as a law enforcement officer.
So how many years over in Cobb?
From 1984 until 12 years ago. So.
Right. Well, before we get into some of the meat of our chat, I've always been pleased to have somebody with your regional and national representation to Paulding County in some of the offices that you have held and hold now. Would you tell us about that?
I've served in the past as the president of the Georgia Emergency Number Association. Started out as a regional vice president in that organization and worked my way up to president, and I served there for about 3 years. And during my time with that organization, I worked at the state level with legislative measures that affected 911 throughout the state. And also allowed me to represent Georgia in different states at different conferences throughout the country.
Well, to have somebody with that background experience and the caliber of work that you've been recognized for, just let me say I'm grateful that we have you here in Paulding County, and no one else has you right now anyway. I
would be happy to retire from here. So. Paulding has been very supportive of me in working at the state level. I'm on the 911 Directors Association. And so the county has supported me in trying to better 911 for everybody.
Okay, well I've got you on video saying that you'll retire from here. So
exactly.
Well, let's move on to your staff. It takes a lot of special qualifications. When we were recognizing emergency responders recently, we had a conversation about some people that just didn't make it through the training, and so incorporate all the training and the staff that you have in whatever you have to describe there.
Okay. Well, we have a staff of 38 employees. 5 of those are administrative staff. The rest are communications officers, whether they be supervisors or training officers or line level communications officers. They staff the 911 center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like any other public safety entity. And so they're always there for that 911 call or for our responders to reach out to them on the radio. Mm-hmm. We provide that lifeline. The training that my folks go through to get to that point, and we do lose a significant number of people during training, and that's the case with a lot of 911 centers. Mm-hmm. They all receive a 5-day training class down in Forsyth to get their state certification. But before that, or during that time period, most of our training is done in-house. We have post-certified instructors, and we do the majority of our training within the 911 center. It takes about 9 to 12 months to train a communications officer, and it's quite a while. We have quite an investment into an employee when they come out of training.
I guess the next thing that crosses my mind is technological advancements, and I guess we've had texting for a few years, but I'm not sure 911 has. Can you enlighten us on that?
Well, we do have text to 911 in Paulding, and we were the first county in the state of Georgia to roll out that capability. So.
Really?
And now we've had several throughout the state roll it out, but you can, in fact, place an emergency text to 911 in Paulding County. And you just enter 911 in the where you would enter somebody's telephone number or name in your telephone, and you put your message in and press send. It's not the preferred method of contacting 911. We still prefer voice calls, but text is an alternative if you can't place a voice call. So our motto is call if you can, text if you can't.
I like that. Call if you can, text if you can't.
All right.
Well, 911 operators do ask a lot of questions, and why do they need to do that?
Well, within the first few seconds of the phone call, we have the information that we need to dispatch that call. The calls the questions that we ask after that, they're necessary for responder safety.
I see.
To make sure that we get the appropriate responders en route, and make sure that we provide the caller with the services that they need. For instance, maybe emergency medical dispatch instructions.
Right.
So it's important for people to remember that any questions that we ask, the majority of those questions are asked after the initial dispatch has already been sent. It doesn't slow down responders, but it is necessary for responder safety and to make sure that we give the public the level of service that they need.
Mm-hmm. It just comes to mind in regard to people that have had cell phones or have old cell phones or maybe deactivated. What kind of problem does that bring about for 911 operators?
So according to federal law, any cell phone has to be able to contact 911. Regardless of whether it has a service plan, the age of the phone, anything. They have to be able to dial 911 from a cell phone. So some of the problems that we run into is when people give those cell phones to their kids as toys, particularly young kids.
Uh-huh.
They'll give them to them, let them play with the cell phone, and then the child will dial 911, and we end up having to answer those calls. So what we ask of parents is, if you're going to give a cell phone to your kid to play with, make sure you take the battery out, or make sure that it's turned off so that it can't reach the cellular network. Because regardless of whether it has a plan, it can still dial 911, and that ties up an operator trying to figure out if there's an actual emergency.
Well, if you were to canvass all the 911 calls that you've experienced, not personally, but through your management of E-911, what would be the most important part of a call, or the most important thing to remember?
Once again, it goes back to location. And so whether you're on a cellular call or calling from your a landline or a home telephone or a business phone, we need to know where you are. And it's particularly important with cell phones. Most people, we are a phase 2 911 center. That means that we can take your location information delivered to us through your carrier, and we can get an idea of where you are. And that's if everything is working properly. So, but that distance or that location can range anywhere from a few feet to a half mile or more. So it's important, depending on your carrier and your telephone's capabilities, that you know where you are. We can't always depend on that phase 2 location. Probably the second most important thing is for people to just don't hang up. If you dial 911, don't hang up until the communications officer tells you to hang up.
Well, I hope I don't have to make any calls, but I hope I can remember some of these facts. You've presented them very well. Maybe it would be a good thing to close, David, with if someone listening, part of our audience today, is interested in being a communications officer, how they would contact us or communicate with you or your Christina on what to do to become a part of the team.
Appabsolutely, and we recruit on a continuing basis. Like most 911 centers, we're always looking for qualified employees. The very first thing that someone who's interested in applying for a job with us will be to come to Human Resources and fill out a county employment application. Those are all forwarded over to the 911 center. The ones that are filled out properly, we call all those people in and let them go through the first round of testing. And we administer several tests during our hiring process, but the first one is a critical test. It's a national standardized test for 911 centers, and it measures your ability to multitask, how well you can hear through headsets, map reading, that kind of stuff. That's a required to pass that test before you can move further in our process. Once you pass that test, then the next one, you have a written test that's like a job compatibility test, and it's another national standardized test. And it just gives us an idea of how well this person would work in a 911 center. The people who score above the 50th percentile on that test are asked to come back, and they're invited back for an interview with the director and the deputy director, Christina Kelly. We ask all of our applicants the same set of questions. We rate them on the answers they give. A numerical score is assigned to that process, and then we make a decision as to who we invite back for the final hiring. If you're invited back after the interview, then you come and do a sit-in in the 911 center where you actually get to sit with the telecommunicators, see what their job is, and give you the opportunity to decide if that's a job that you really want to do.
Right.
You also meet our management staff, the training coordinator, operations manager at that point. And they can give you a different perspective on what we do every day and how the training.
You got a real hands-on opportunity
Exactly.
to check it out. Yeah.
And once they're done with that, then if they elect to come back, then we have them fill out a background packet. We do a public safety background investigation. Once that comes back clear, then those folks are the ones that are invited back for a conditional job offer. If they accept that conditional job offer, then they are required to do a psychological, physical, and drug screen, and we give them start dates.
A lot of screening involved, and
It is.
you can see why. Well, the times I've been out to the center, which was just a couple of weeks ago most recently, seemed like y'all have a lot of fun. The operators, the officers were dressed up and having a kind of a fun Decades Day, they called it. So it's been fun talking with you about something that's very serious but important for our audience and our citizens to be aware of. I know they've gained a lot of knowledge. So thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.